Okay. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Members of the House, we need to understand that criminal justice system's function is not only to punish individuals, but to create a culture of governance and civil society that is just, compensatory, and equal. Now, in the closing government side, we will discuss on what constitutes as corruption and who constitutes as the corruptors, as well as give a context to the present debate and an explanation on why it is just to impoverish these corruptors at a level that they would be completely deprived of assets as an individual. Now, first of all, we need to contextualize the debate according to the opening government or opening opposition side. Now, what opening government has said is that the status quo currently is only giving a slap in the wrist for these corruptors. Now, because of this slap in the wrist in the form of financial reparation, it encourages a culture of corruption. Now, this culture of corruption impoverishes and exploits the workers. And their solution to this is to impoverish these corruptors until a level of normalcy where they will be above minimum wage but not under it, right? So why we think this is not sufficient? Because it is still a slap on the wrist. It does not sufficiently give punishment towards these corruptors and still instigate them towards future corruption. Now, why would impoverish would mean all? On our side of the house, impoverished would mean all assets until to the point of depravity. Now, second of all, from the government side, is that abstraction, they have an abstracted view of reallocation of funds that does not sufficiently address who is being affected by these corruption scandals. Now, we will be discussing that on our further substantive. However, we need to again recontextualize the arguments that opening opposition has brought. Developed countries cannot survive without corruption. That is the claim that is being brought by opening opposition. However, this claim is not relevant to our debate because either way, corruption is still not right and it should not be justified in our current context, right? Second of all is that the impoverishment impoverishment towards zero level that the opening opposition has said will bring about more pain towards individuals and their families firstly, it lacks context because in the greater effect of corruption, the many outweigh the few. These corruptors use their funds to fund lavish lifestyle at the expense of the proletarian who does the work for them. Secondly, on the basis of human rights, jail time also constitutes the breaking of human rights, which opening opposition has an argument against our financial remuneration. Now, we need to understand that the restriction of movements in jail time is also a restriction of basic human rights. Just because it violates human rights does not mean that it should not be done because these individuals did something wrong. Thirdly is the bad effect towards family members. Within family members, the corruption is only limited to one individual. Let's say the male in the family. That would mean the female in the family still has the assets that she has, right? So that would mitigate the effects of the depravity. Third of all is that why jail time alone is inefficient? Because first of all, it's a false argument that jail time is a perfect argument. Because corruptors are individuals of power, they have more influence within these jails to exploit the system to get better sentences. Secondly is that within jail itself, these corruptors are still able to conduct their illegal operations and corruptions because they have not been deprived of their financial gains. Third of all is that the ability of individuals to get something wrong, to get the system wrong or the judgments wrong, is not an exclusive rebuttal towards the government side, but is also exists in the opposition side where jail time can be misappropriated. Now let me move on to my substance and why we think that our side of the house will win this argument. We'll begin by describing the power structures and the corruptors itself. Now, within power structures, corruptors have an influence that enables them to obtain their financial gain and to do these corruptions. It is because of the imbalance of power and because they are in positions of power. Now, here we would like to define that corruption not only occurs in government level or corruption or company level, but it occurs on the individual level. And because it occurs on the individual level, the individuals would be solely responsible and the only one responsible to obtain these financial reparation, to be deprived of their financial gains. Now, why is this? Because we need to fight the disease of corruption at its core, at the position of power. Now, we can do this through 3 Acts: impoverishment, funds allocation, and thirdly is jail time and social punishment. Why we believe that impoverishment will work? Because these individuals will no longer have the access toward what made them able to conduct their business. First of all, we would like to strip all titles and positions that enable these individuals to get these corruption deals in the first place. Secondly is that we would like to take all land, all money, and all assets that are being owned by these individuals. We will later explain how these funds will be reallocated towards those who need them the most. And thirdly is that we would like to pay back more of what they first gained in the corruption itself. Now, as a rebuttal and extension, why is the principle justified? Because a proportion of the gain that has been made from a proportion of the gain of the profit that has been made is only possible because they have done these corruptions in the first place. Now, because they have gained the profits and exploited the workers, that is why we need to pay them back more. Second of all is the fund allocation. Funds are people's right, and through exploitation, they are being taken away. Now, we need to understand that these exploitation occur at a regional level, not only a national level. And if the funds were to be allocated toward healthcare and funds at the national level, it would not address those who are being affected at the local level. That is why we are proposing that those individuals who are being exploited, then the funds that are being obtained by the corruptors, that we have obtained from the corruptors, they should be given towards individuals that have suffered the most from the corruption and on the local level. Now, third of all is that we believe that jail time and social punishment should be a part of our solution as a collective. Why is this? Because we believe that however we cut it, financial impoverishment and jail time on its own cannot solve the problem that we are facing today. Jail time would constitute those criminals that have done massive corruption, and social punishment in the form of community service will happen towards individuals who have done little corruption, those individuals on a corruption that is scale that is small. Why do we believe that with these two options, we will be able to solve the corruption at a fundamental level? Proud to oppose. I'll give it to my second speaker.
Okay, so my speech will begin in 3, 2, 1. As the motion said, we as a government would like to impoverish corruptors. So nowadays, corruptor sanctions, we know that corruption sanctions still not optimal, cannot give a deterrent effect. And in here, impoverishment to corruptor is still needed to protect the welfare of the society. In here, we would like to clarify what the opposing government and opposition has said. Okay, so in here, opposing government has said that the impoverishment for the corruption is only slap on the wrist, which means it cannot give a deterrent effect. And for the opposition said that jail times is enough, which we believe that jail times alone is not sufficient and not enough, because jail times is the application of jail is already exists still for a long time ago, but corruption still exists. In here, the opening side not mention how in the first place how corruption exists. In here, money is the source that can drive a person to commit corruptions, because the main reason of corruption is the money itself, right? So that's why we as a closing government would like to say that impoverishment is needed in here, but impoverishment alone is still not enough. That's why we as a closing would like to give more exclusive arguments, which is impoverishment and the social punishment plus jail times and jail times. So impoverishment is like to take all of the status, titles of the corruptors, and social punishment and jail times is divided into two things. First, for the social punishments, go for the minor corruptions. For example, steal people's fruits, steal people's things, and then for jail times, for the major corruptions, for example, it lead to it can bring more harm for the globally, can bring more harm to the state itself, economically, and this impoverishment and social punishment and jail times need to be applied together, not just one by one. That government just said impoverishment and opposition only said jail times. And besides that, allocation funds is also needed. Government also need to allocate funds well. In here, allocate funds we meant is to take all of the funds that the corruptors corrupt from the company, from the country, and give it back to the specific regions, specific people that they took the money. So the money is not distributed equally to all of the people nationally, but go to the specific people from where they took the money from. So there's a justice in here. And so the impoverishment and social punishment that we give the solution, we believe this is the clear solution and the best solution that we can give, because only one is not enough. Only impoverishment is not enough, and social punishment and jail times, only that is not enough. That's why these two things should be applied together, plus the good and well allocation fund of the government itself. And that's why our arguments can eradicate the corruptions to the core, because we provide two solutions at once, two solutions together and should be applied at once, and good allocation funds. So closing government proud to oppose.